So, good morning, all, and welcome to the another lecture of 8085. We were working on the interfacing portion of microprocessor, and today we are going to continuing with how many types of say interfacing and communication of data can be possible using 8085 microprocessor, right? So let us start with that. So I will just repeat what we have studied in the last class, and then we'll continue with the new ones that we have to go through. I guess my screen is visible to you. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So today we are going to start with this. Let me introduce myself. Myself, Dr. Andy Meshram, Head and Associate Professor, Department of Electronics, Sri Mathuradas Mohta College of Science. And today we are going to study the input and output organization of 8085, the third class of this session. So let us begin with that. What we have studied in the earlier class, we have studied the input and output organizations, how they are being organized and how they can be used. And this is how we are going to access the input output devices because by default we have to connect this microprocessor to the input output devices for the purpose of application of microprocessor in the day to day life, right? So for that we require this accessing of input output devices, and for that we have studied the structures that how these input output devices are connected. So we can connect multiple input output devices, and then the bus consists of three sets of lines to carry address, to carry the data, and to carry the control signals. Each input output device is assigned with an unique address, and to access an input output device, the processor places the address on the address lines. The device recognizes the address and responds to the control signals. This is what we have studied, and I have shown you this is the block diagram of that. This is the processor, and this is the memory, whereas in the below portion it has having input output device 1 up to input output device n, right? So they are being connected, and then yeah, this is input output devices, and the memory may share the same address space, that is memory mapped input output. So we are having two three types of say using the address. The one is called as memory mapped input output address. Any machine instruction in which any machine instruction that can access memory can be used to transfer data to or from an input output device, and this has a simpler software. The other one is input output device and memory may have different address spaces. This requires special instructions to transfer data. Input output device may have to deal with fewer address lines. So some of the address lines are common for that. And lastly, input output address lines need not be physically separate from the memory address lines. So this is what we have already completed. Address lines may be shared between input output devices and memory with a control signals to indicate whether it is for the memory or for it is the input output address. This is what we have completed already. Then these are the circuits that we require for that. So we require basically the four types of circuits. These are address decoder, control circuit, and data registers and status registers. Right. So four types of circuits are there, and these are some of the applications of those circuits, interfacing circuits. And this is how it looks like. Sorry. So this is how it looks like. Yeah. So address decoder over here, control circuits, data and status registers are connected over here. Address lines, data lines, and control lines. These are input output interface circuits, and these are the input devices, and they are being connected by the address lines, data lines, and control lines, right, separately. So data lines are connected to the data and status registers. Control lines are connected to the control circuits, whereas the address decoder are connected interface to the address lines. These address lines, which are given by the microprocessor on this, are being decoded by this address decoder, and they are being given to this input output devices so that they would understand that which input output device is uh, needs to be communicated by the microprocessor, right? So this is how we are accessing the input output devices by using these circuits. Then uh, yeah, the data transfer rate of the input output devices must be lower than the rate or the speed of the processor. And these types of data transfer. One is called as program controlled input output, in which the processor repeatedly monitors a status flag to achieve the necessary synchronization. Now this is how we are going to communicate. In this program control input output device, the processor microprocessor 8085 itself goes on checking whether the input output devices are ready to give the data or to communicate or not. So this is the processor polls the input output devices, means it checks one by one to all the input output devices. And there are two other mechanisms used for synchronization data transfer between the processor and the memory. This is the one is program controlled input output device, and then the other ones are the interrupts, and the third one is the DMA, that is the direct memory access. So the memory is being accessed directly by the microprocessor. These are three types of interfacing that those are possible in 8085 microprocessor. Then yeah. So what are interrupts? So what are interrupts? I have told you in the last class itself. The interrupts are actually they say the substitute of the other type of sharing the input output, right? So data, input output data. So in program control, what happens? The processor goes on continuously checking the input output devices whether they are ready for communication or not. But for for that, the processor is to keep busy, right? So processor is doing some work, and if he wants to share, I have given that time the example of, say, if principal sir wants me to come in some time. So I will go on checking principal whether he's free or not, whether he's free or not. So what happens? I will be wasting my time. So instead of that, if principal sir calls me when he is free, so it will be a little bit easier for me to go and communicate with that particular slot of time, complete my job, and return back to my own work. Right. So that can be done, and that is the main approach of this interrupts. So this in this what happens? The input output device gives the processor an alert when they become ready. So that is, and how they are going to do that? They do that by sending a hardware signal called as interrupt to the processor. It sends a high signal to the microprocessor that yes, I need to communicate. And then at least one of the bus control signals, at least one of the bus control lines called an interrupt request line is dedicated for this purpose. So one of the control lines means between in that 16 bit of address lines, one bit is there for that. Now the processor can perform other tasks, as I told you. By that time, if it is not checking the input output devices, then it is free to do its work. And this is how it is going to do that. So the processor is doing this job, is completing this program, and in between that what happens, the input output device gives it an interrupt. So what it does, it is going to switch, or it is going to give all the signals to the interrupt service routine. It is going to perform that, and it will return back, right? So this is how the microprocessor is using its time properly, right? So without wasting time, the input output device itself is going to give that signal. But before going to that interrupt service routine, what is to be done? During this program, whatever the data is being processed, or the microprocessor is processing the data, that particular data is to be stored somewhere, saved it somewhere for when the program return back to the main program, right? When this interrupt service routine completes, and when it returns to again back to this program one, then that particular data which was there in all the registers, or say in some stack pointer, or say the program counter in that case, where which keeps the record of that particular memory location where the next instruction is. that data is to be retained back after it returns to the main program. So that is to be stored, that is to be taken care of, and this is taken by the uh, the interrupts and the processors, right? So that can be written in the main program itself, or the if it is not written, then that can be written by the programmer. So treatment of an interrupt service routine is very similar to that of a subroutine. That is what we have discussed, that interrupt service routine and subroutine are actually same, but difference is subroutine is being called in the main program, whereas the service routine is being given by the input output devices, right? So this is what we have done, and now this is what I was talking about, that saving and restoring information can be done automatically by the process. As soon as it receives the interrupt, that as soon as it receives the interrupt request, then it itself should go through that to save the data of the program which it was expecting to say, uh, which it was working on. So it should keep that data, or otherwise the programmer might give that in the service subroutine itself to save the data before it proceeds for its own function. Now, saving and restoring register involves memory transfer, increases the total execution time, increases the delay between the time an interrupt request is received and the start of execution of interrupt service routine. This delay is called as the interrupt latency, right? So that there might be a difference. In order to receive the interrupt latency, most processors save only the minimal amount of information that is being required. Now, this minimal amount of information includes the program counter and processor status registers. These are the minimum data that is being required by the main program while it is switching to the interrupt subroutine, and any additional information that must be must be saved explicitly by the program instruction at the beginning of the interrupt subroutine. So that must be the job of the programmer, of which is who is going to write the interrupt service routine, should write the data that is to be saved before it proceeds to that, and at the end of that it is going to return to the main program, right? So yeah, so now what happens when the processor receives an interrupt request? It must branch to the interrupt service routine. So as soon as it uh, receives that request, it should go to that interrupt service routine, right? So that it will perform. But before that, it is going to save all that data, and it must also inform the device that it has recognized the interrupt request. So it has to send, the processor has to send the interrupt acknowledgement request on that, and this can be accomplished in two ways, right? The some processors have an explicit interrupt acknowledge control signal. For this purpose in 8085 it is having there. So that is one, and in other cases the data transfer takes place between the device and the processor, can be used to inform the device. So as soon as the data transfer starts, then only it will give you the acknowledgement, right? So these are the two ways to acknowledge the interrupt. Acknowledge the interrupt means that the processor has received the interrupt signal, and it is going to give all the powers, all the controls to the interrupt service routine, right? So these are the requirements of interrupts. So interrupt request, uh, the interrupt request the interrupt the execution of a program and may alter the intended sequence of events. Sometimes such alteration may be under undesirable and must not be allowed. So sometimes what happens, interrupt the execution of a program, interrupts जो है interrupt request जो है ये कुछ प्रोग्राम जो प्रोसेसर ऑलरेडी कर रहा है उसको डिस्टर्ब करता है, right? So it should not disturb in such a way that it can be returned back. So for that, uh, which is going to alter the main program. So while doing the processor is performing the main program, this interrupt request might disturb that. So yeah, that is what is undesirable. While I'm taking a class, if somebody interrupts and says, "Sir, I need this job," so the flow in which I'm teaching you might get disturbed. So the same happens with the processor, that when it is doing certain program and there is an interrupt, then it is undesirable. For example, the processor may not want to be interrupted by the same device while executing its interrupt service. अब होता ये है वो इंटरप्ट सर्विस सब रूटीन काम कर रहा है और उस वक्त फिर से इंटरप्ट आ रहा है. सो इस वक्त क्या करेंगे, उसको हम लोग इंटरप्ट इनेबल या इंटरप्ट डिसेबल करके रखेंगे, राइट. सो विल हैव दिस interrupt enable when there is no interrupts working on, and we will disable as soon as the processor jumps into that interrupt service subroutine. तो वो जब jump करेगा तब automatically पहला जो इंस्ट्रक्शन रहेगा उसमें हम लोग interrupt disable का ऑप्शन डाल देंगे. To avoid interruption by the same device during the execution of an interrupt subroutine, first instruction of an interrupt service subroutine can be sub service routine कैन बी इंटरप्ट डिसेबल. तो ये सबसे पहला डाल देंगे और लास्ट इंस्ट्रक्शन में इंटरप्ट एनेबल कर देंगे, तो हमारा काम कंप्लीट हो जाएगा, right. So multiple input output devices may be connected to the processor and the memory via bus. Some or all of these devices may be capable of generating interrupt requests. So all of these input output devices are must be capable of generating these interrupt requests. Unless and until if it generates the interrupt request, the processor will not be able to know which input output device is going to communicate. Now, each device that operates independently and hence no definite order can be imposed on how the devices generate interrupt requests. So, कैसे उसने generate करना है, that is what is decided by the independent input output device. How does the processor know which device has generated an interrupt? कैसे पता चलेगा एक प्रोसेसर 8085 को कि कौन से इनपुट आउटपुट डिवाइस ने इंटरप्ट सिग्नल भेजा है. सो फॉर दैट, हाउ डज द प्रोसेसर नो which interrupt service routine needs to be executed? Now there might be many interrupt service routines which are to be executed. So how this processor is going to know that? So when the processor is executing an interrupt service routine for one device, can other device interrupt the processor? Now it is going to work. Now these are some of the questions which we are going to answer in the next coming slides. So if two interrupt requests are received simultaneously, then how to break the tie? So कैसे करेंगे? What? How to decide the priority to whom I should give the most priority? The first किसका काम करना है? That is also one of the important question while considering the interrupt request. So these are some of the FAQs that are being generated by that. So yeah, consider a simple arrangement where all devices send their interrupt request over a single control line in a bus. अगर ऐसा होता है, when the processor receives an interrupt request over this control line, how does it know which device is requesting an interrupt? So ये ऐसा अगर situation आता है, so this information is available in status register of the device requesting an interrupt. So this is all is being registered in the status registers, right? किसने interrupt किया है, कैसे करेंगे वो. Now the status register of each device has an IRQ bit which it sets to 1 when it requests an interrupt. So that is called as the इंटरप्ट रिक्वेस्ट, राइट. सो इंटरप्ट रिक्वेस्ट का जो ये है उसमें एक बिट ऑलरेडी मेंशन किया होता है इन ऑल द स्टेटस रजिस्टर्स ऑफ ईच डिवाइस, राइट. सो जैसे ही वो 1 पर हो जाएगा तो इट implies that the device is ready for communication. Now interrupt service routine can poll the input output devices connected to the bus. The first device with IRQ equal to 1 is the one that is service. So first come first serve basis per whomsoever input output device is going to make this IRQ bit in that status register to high, that particular first input output device is going to be served first, right. So that is taken care of. Now polling mechanism is easy but sometimes but time consuming to query the status bits of all the input output devices connected to the bus. Yeah, polling mechanism means we have to poll for each one of it. So the processor is going to poll and check each one of it. Which uh, device has given that signal, right? So that is the device requesting an interrupt may identify itself directly to the processor because it is having its own address. Now the device can do so by sending a special code that is 4 to 8 bits the processor over the bus. So ये प्रोसेसर को एक स्पेशल कोड भेजेगा 4 to 8 बिट्स का uh, to the processor over the bus. So whatever bus we are having, according to that, it is going to send that special code, and which is going to verify which input output device is expecting to communicate with the processor. Now, the code supplied by the device may represent a part of a starting address of the interrupt service routine. So ये जो कोड हम लोग भेजने की बात कर रहे हैं ये क्या करेगा? It will represent a small part of the starting address of the interrupt service routine, right? So वो रहेगा उसमें. Now that the remainder of the starting address is obtained by the processor based on the information such as the range of the memory address where the input service routine are located. So बाकी का काम कौन करेगा? जैसे आपने स्टार्टिंग का डेटा दे दिया, उसका कौन से मेमोरी लोकेशन में है, कहाँ जाने वाला है, कैसे जाने वाला, तो फिर वो पूरा का पूरा काम किसका है? हमारे माइक्रो प्रोसेसर का है कि टू कंटिन्यू दैट पर्टिकुलर इंटरप्ट सर्विस रूटीन. Now, usually the location pointed to by the interrupting device is used to store the starting address of the interrupt service routine. Usually क्या करते हैं? To point out the location where we need to start the interrupt service routine. So this is being stored in the starting address of the sorry. This is given by the interrupting device, right? तो उनका लोकेशन वो इंटरप्टिंग डिवाइस ही देता है. uh, that is required when it goes for this. So multiple input output devices may be connected to the processor and memory via bus. Some of all these devices may be capable of generating interrupt requests. I guess this is what we have already completed. Yeah. Yes, this is what we have completed. Oh, yes. Yes, we have completed this. Now, yeah, previously before the processor start executing the interrupt service routine for a device, it disable the interrupts from the device. यानी सबसे पहला काम तो इंटरप्ट डिसेबल करने का है, नहीं तो फिर वो उसका ही प्रोग्राम रन कर रहा है और वो अपना एक क्या कहते हैं उसको इंटरप्ट भेज रहा है. In general, same arrangement is used when multiple devices can send interrupts to the processor. Right? During the execution of an interrupt service routine of a device, the processor does not accept interrupt requests from any other device. If the processor is doing one of the interrupt service routine of one of the input output device, then it is not going to receive any other interrupt from the other devices, right? So it will do only one job at a time. Since the interrupt service routines are usually short, the delay that this causes is generally acceptable. और अगर हम लोग इंटरप्ट सर्विस रूटीन अगर वो काम कर रहा है तो उसका जो टाइम लिमिट रहता है वो काफी कम रहता है, वो बहुत ही शॉर्ट टाइम के लिए रहता है, तो उतना वो मैनेज कर सकते हैं, उतना टाइम वो रुक सकता है दूसरा इनपुट आउटपुट डिवाइस उसके इंटरप्ट के लिए. सो एक बार में एक ही काम करेगा. नाउ सिंस द या however for certain devices this delay may not be acceptable, पर कुछ डिवाइसेस के लिए it is very essential कि उन्होंने जैसे इंटरप्ट भेजा है that time only the work should be done. So in that case, which devices can be allowed to interrupt a processor when it is executing an interrupt service routine of another device? Now, kiska the priority? How to decide the priority to allow the interrupt by the other devices by the processor? ये कौन check करेगा, right? So for that, yeah, so the for that input output devices are organized in a priority structure. तो मैंने आप लोगों को बताया था कि if now during this lecture if principal visits the department and if he interrupts, so I have to give him a priority. if say if a student interrupts, then I might say that, yeah, let me finish my
सर
class,
ऑडियो
I will
क्लियर
talk
नहीं
to
है.
you. हेलो. हाँ बताना बेटा.
ऑडियो क्लियर
आवाज
नहीं है सर.
आवाज आ रहा है अभी. हेलो.
हाँ सर,
हेलो.
पर बीच बीच में पूरा अटक रहा है.
हाँ नेट का प्रॉब्लम होगा बेटा. सबको यही प्रॉब्लम है कि कैसा? एवरीबॉडी इज हैविंग द सेम प्रॉब्लम कि तुम्हारे एंड पर? अच्छा, विल ट्राई फॉर दैट. ओके. बाकी लोगों को तो नहीं है बेटा. ठीक है. चेक नेटवर्क
ओके
ऑन
सर.
ईयर. Input output
ओके सर.
devices are organized in a priority structure, right? So the interrupt priority, मैं अभी बता रहा था कि the priority is decided by the input output device who is going to communicate with us. An interrupt request from the high priority device is accepted while the processor is executing the interrupt service routine of a low priority device. तो मैंने अभी आपको बताया कि principal sir in the college is at the highest priority, so he has to be entertained first, राइट. तो उनके बाद सारे काम. एग्जैक्टली तो ऐसा ही सेम प्रायोरिटी स्ट्रक्चर हमारा माइक्रो प्रोसेसर 8085 का और इनपुट आउटपुट डिवाइसेस का बनाया हुआ है कि किसकी प्रायोरिटी रहेगी. अगर if in case the processor is already executing a interrupt service routine of a input output device, then and the person, the input output device with a higher priority interrupts, then that input output device has to be taken care for. Otherwise, it will complete the work of that particular interrupt service routine, and then only it will switch to that interrupt. Now, a priority level is assigned to a processor that can be changed under program control. So here is a priority that can be varied as per the requirement of the program. The priority level of a processor is the priority of a program that is currently being executed. तो कौन सा program पहले urgent है उसके हिसाब से the priority can be decided. When the processor starts executing the interrupt service routine of a device, its priority is raised to that of the device. If the device sending an interrupt request has a higher priority than the processor accepts the interrupt request. Right? So मैंने आपको अभी बताया विद हायर प्रायोरिटी उसका पहले हम लोगों को ध्यान देना है, अदरवाइज चलता है, बाकी लोगों का तो चल ही सकता है. So the processor's priority is encoded in a few bits of a processor status register. Now this is how the priority is being decided. Priority can be changed by instruction that write into the processor of the status register. Now the priority of the input output devices can be varied, can be changed according to the status registers, right? So in that status register, we have to mention the priorities also. So usually these are privileged instructions or instructions that can be executed only in the supervisor mode. So this is one of the supervisor mode in which the priorities can be changed. The privileged instructions cannot be executed in user mode. Prevents a user program from accidentally or intentionally changing the priority of the processor. And if there is an attempt to execute a privileged instruction in the user mode, it causes a special type of interrupt called. Okay, I guess we are having only 2 or 3 minutes to go. Yeah. So okay, you were working on this. Hmm. Yeah, I guess we have done with this. Yeah, this is what we have completed, and yeah, we were working on the priorities. Yeah, so priority level can be organized as per the requirement. So priority can be changed, and this is the supervisor mode that we were studying. This is privileged instructions cannot be executed in user mode. Agar privileged instructions are used in user mode, then what happens? That is called as privilege exception. So if there is an attempt to execute a privileged instruction, that is, say, priority in the user mode, it causes a special type of interrupt that is called as the privilege exception, right? So these are the interrupts priorities that can be decided. So this is the first at first priority, and this is at the last priority. So interrupt P, each device has a separate interrupt request and an interrupt acknowledge. So all the devices are having separate interrupts. So these are interrupts and these are interrupt acknowledge, INTA, right? So it will have INTA2, INTA3, INT4, interrupt acknowledge 4, and this is the interrupt acknowledge P. These are interrupt request 1, interrupt request 2, interrupt request 3, and up to interrupt request P, right? So all the input output devices will have its own interrupt request and interrupt acknowledge lines. Each interrupt request received over these lines are sent to a priority arbitration circuit in the processor. If the interrupt request has a higher priority than level than the priority of the processor, then the request is accepted. तो ये इसका है priorities का. And which interrupt request does the processor accept if it receives interrupt requests from two or more devices simultaneously? If the input output device are organized in priority structure, then the processor accept the interrupt request from the device with higher priority. Right? Each device has its own interrupt request and interrupt acknowledge line. A different priority level is assigned to the interrupt request line of each device. Now, however, if the device share an interrupt request line, then how does the processor decide which interrupt request is to be accepted? Now this is called as the polling scheme. I guess the time is short, so we'll end up over here, and we'll continue in the next class tomorrow at the same time. So thank you very much for joining, and I wish you a healthy stay at home. I guess. Oh, okay, sir. So yeah. So thank you very much for joining. Take care, stay home, stay safe. See you soon, and goodbye. Bye. I will end meeting. Have a nice time. Bye. See you in the